Okay, guys, welcome back to the Lay Down podcast. Here, of course, joined by my co-host Lenny B, as always, and we are here to kind of recap Week 6. Still not over yet. We have Denver and the Chargers tonight, but nobody actually wants to watch that game, other than
No.
the absolute calamities that will be Brandon Staley and Nathaniel Hackett. But other than that, a lot of stuff happened in week 6. A lot of upsets. I felt like a lot of the
Yes.
best teams, or what we at least perceived to be the best teams in the league, lost. Right? Packers lost, Bucks lost, Ravens lost, Chiefs lost.
Niners lost.
Nearly as embarrassing, but yeah, man. We're in week 6. We're a third of the way done of the year already, which is kind of weird to
Ugh,
say, but
that
we're
sucks.
already here. We're already like kind of. There's not really a ton of overreactions you can have at this point, because kind of what you've been through a third of the year is who you're starting to be. So Lenny, what are your just overall thoughts on the season? And yeah,
I said this. I don't remember. I think it was last episode, but I don't know if defense got really good or if offense got bad, or not bad, but just not as great as it was years prior because of just the pure amount of change that's happened in quarterback and receiver. Like receivers, there was like 10 quality receiver ones who left their team and went to a different team. And there were about 4 or 5 quarterbacks that were stationed there where they used to be, uh, and got traded or retired or cut, whatever. And you can just tell that offenses aren't as clean as they used to be. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why. There's just those are the two most important position groups on offense, your receiver one and your quarterback. And it doesn't seem like anybody really has a reliable duo of those except for the elite teams at this point.
yeah. I mean, I think, and I kind of talked about it on. We both, I think, kind of talked about it on BLV versus consensus. I think one of the things is the league is kind of, remember last year for like a 4 week stretch when the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes just could not move the football for whatever
Yeah.
reason, and they ultimately ended up figuring it out. But I think the league, when they started playing those like two high safety zone defense, kind of figured out that, oh my god, if we can cause Mahomes, Andy Reid, the best offense in the league, all these sorts of issues, why don't we play this against every team?
Yeah,
And
why
I
don't they
think
do everybody?
they're nullifying the deep passing game and how effective it can be right now. And I think that's why, the most effective offenses, the three most effective offenses in the league this year have been Kansas City and Buffalo, right? So the two best quarterbacks in football. We'll get to that game. And
Mhm.
then the Eagles, who have the best or second best rushing quarterback in the league with Jalen Hurts. I think teams that run the ball are actually getting more of an advantage this year, like the Falcons, for example, have been able to kind of, with a running quarterback and a run scheme that's successful, have been able to have a lot of offensive success, whereas primarily, in a passing league, they probably wouldn't have as much success. And we're seeing teams like the Bengals and the Bucks, even with a really good quarterback and a set of receivers, still have all sorts of issues offensively. And I know the Bengals had a great game Sunday, but still they've had issues throughout the season. We know the issues that the Bucks have. We'll get to that. So yeah, it's been kind of crazy this season, quite honestly. We'll get to the game on Sunday though. That was the game of the year. I mean, I think you have to say it. Bills Chiefs, the most hyped game.
Nah, man. Raiders
For
Chiefs.
sure.
That was crazy.
Just in terms of hype, I think though the Bills Chiefs was the game of the year.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably.
Bills ended up coming up on top, 24-20 in Arrowhead. A little lower scoring than I think most people would have expected. I thought it would have been a little higher scoring, but still a very close game, very back and forth. It felt like, Lenny. I don't know how much of it you saw, but
I
it
watched a
felt
lot of
like
it.
the entire game either of the two teams could win, and they felt very evenly matched to me. The difference, and I'll flag this first. I think I came into the year. Of course, I did my quarterback rankings. I had Brady 1, Allen 2, Mahomes 3, Rogers 4. There were a lot of great quarterbacks, I thought, entering the year, and I still think there are. Justin Herbert's fantastic. We'll see him tonight. Lamar is fantastic. Jalen Hurts has really stepped up. I still think Joe Burrow's really good. I still think Brady and Rodgers are still very good. Maybe not what they once were, but I just think in this, and it reaffirms what I was already suspecting in this game. These two, Allen and Mahomes, are just in a different class than everyone else. No exceptions. Like Josh Allen is playing the best football of his career. Really, ever since the playoffs last year, he's been unstoppable. It feels like, and Mahomes didn't have his best game in this game. Threw two interceptions, of course, through the game-ending one, but still made a ton of throws and plays where you're like, okay, only he and the guy standing across the sideline can actually make these plays, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and we've seen Mahomes be one of, if not the best quarterbacks in the league this year. I think my biggest takeaway from this game was these two are just in a different class. I already kind of thought that, but it just got confirmed.
Uh, from my biggest takeaway is I wasn't sure if I could put the Chiefs as the number two best team yet. I was just still a little worried about that defense. I was still a little worried about maybe just the lack of consistent explosiveness that they used to have. But I mean, this game, regardless of the loss, really cemented to me after three straight games of really competitive, like really impressive performances. I just I can't not put them as the second best team in the league right now. I was teetering for a bit. I mean, I just can't see anybody doing as good as the Chiefs right now. There's a couple teams in the
Other than
AFC.
the team they
If
played.
things fall together the way they should, I could see being amazing. Like the Chargers, if they could get, if their coaching can pick up, and if their guys get healthy at the right time by the end of the year, they're going to be a force to reckon with just because of how talented the roster is. Like they're like the Raiders, if they can figure out what they're like, if they can figure out how to win and they can figure out how to just get in these, like they're going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs. But the Bills and the Chiefs are just two teams that we know are going to get it together by the playoffs and have proved it time and time again. And I just needed that extra push against the best team in the NFL because the Raiders and the Bucks aren't like at this point aren't playing at that level. And yeah, it was just refreshing to see that, and that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the game stats now. Bills 26 first downs, Chiefs 23. Yards per play, Bills 6.2, Chiefs 6.3. Yards per pass, Bills 7.8, Chiefs 7.4. Yards per rush, Bills 4, Chiefs 3.8. Time of possession, Bills
Oh my gosh.
31 and a half minutes, Chiefs 28 and a half minutes, right? So super even game. Um, I thought the difference was, and it's kind of what I think the difference between these two teams are, and what I believe is the reason that I've always put the Bills a little bit higher throughout the season than the Chiefs. I just think the Bills have a better defense, and
Mm-hmm.
look, the Chiefs defense played a decent game. If you would have said to me before the game that the Bills are going to score 24 points, I would have been like, okay, I'd probably pick the Chiefs in that situation, because the Bills have such a good offense, and holding them to
Yeah.
24 points is a decent accomplishment, especially for a Chiefs defense that's shown some struggles over the last couple of weeks. But the Bills defense to me proves that if they're not the best in the league, they're top three. And I already thought that. I thought coming into the year they were the best. They've looked like one or two to me with your Niners when they're healthy at least. And they made the play at the end of the game. And Von Miller, I thought, outside of Josh Allen, was the best player on the field. And you see the
God, he's so
difference
good.
that he made in this game. And I do think you saw a little bit. I do think the Chiefs missed Tyreek Hill. We've been making fun of people who said they were greater without him, and we were still right about that. But I do think they missed Tyreek Hill in a matchup like this, and just having that easy after catch plays and easy deep passing game. The Bills adding a pass rusher, the Chiefs losing a star receiver, I do think might have been the difference between the two. And now it looks like, unless the Bills, are two games worse than the Chiefs from here, this game probably going to be played in Buffalo again if they do meet again. So I like what I
Probably.
saw from the Bills. I'm getting a lot of championship vibes with them.
Yeah, yeah. It's just I don't know. Okay, of course they're the favorites, right? Of course the Bills are the
Yes.
favorites. I mean, I think anyone with a reasonable mind should have them as a favorite. But it's like, man, I feel like I've been feeling this for like a couple years now. Like I've been trying to
This
cash
has
these
to be their
chips.
year, I
I've
feel
been
like.
trying to cash these chips. I've been trying to go all in, but and it's so obvious to me, but they haven't gotten it done. So it's like, of course I believe in them, but it's like, it's you're still a little bit teetering. Of course they're the favorites. I'm this, you know, it's just a little tough at this point with all the playoff I don't know about
Did you
disappointment,
have
but
any
definitely super
other
suspect.
takeaways about the Bills or the Chiefs in this game?
I mean, like right at the end, I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're gonna give them too much time. The Chiefs are gonna get the ball back. It's gonna be just like before." And we said it all year last year. The difference was the 13 seconds, right? Now they're in a position to where the difference isn't that you gave Mahomes the ball again. The difference is that your defense was able to step up in that moment. That was the difference. And that we always say like organizations need to be able to adjust when they don't win, adjust when they lose, and be able to add talent wherever like it's not supposed to be. And the Bills did a fantastic job. I know we've already talked about this, everyone knows, but they did a great job at assessing what they needed and filling it in the draft with Pierre Elam. They didn't even have Tre'Davious White in this game, and Von Miller, a pass rusher who stepped up in this game in a huge way. And it's just like that's the mark of a great organization, one that can not only be consistently winning, be in contention for a Super Bowl, but one that can consistently look at what they are doing wrong or what they need to do to get to a Super Bowl to put themselves at the top. We've been complaining about the Packers for years, not getting that receiver, not getting that extra guy now look what they are now.
We'll get to the
Probably not going to
Packers.
make the Super Bowl. I mean, like the Bucks, they're the team that made that extra step. The Rams made that extra step. Obviously, the Rams aren't where they need to be right now, but they did it for the Super Bowl last year. So great organizations put themselves in the face. How do you win a Super Bowl right now? And I'm glad the Bills were able to do that this offseason because I don't know if they can win the Super Bowl without Von Miller this time.
Yeah, I mean, they were any team that gets that close last year probably just runs it back. But the Bills were able to evaluate their roster, find out their holes, assess who their biggest competitors were, and realize that, yes, we're going to face Kansas City for likely the entire 2020s because they have 15, right?
Yep.
And we have Josh Allen still on his rookie deal for this year. So we've got to go all in. We have a quarterback not making a ton of money. We got to maximize the team around him because he's a superstar that can match anybody in the NFL. So, and I like that they did that. I think this team is the best of Josh Allen. And I said coming into the year, if the Bills could merge the 2020 offense with the 2021 defense, then that is a true Super Bowl favorite caliber team. What I think they've done actually now, and I saw a little bit more from their run game in this game, which I was actually quite pleased to see. I thought Singletary had a couple nice runs. Um, this is the best offense the Bills have had with Josh Allen, and I think this is the best defense the Bills have had with Josh Allen. So that I just think this is their year. If not now, when kind of thing right now with them. And if they would have lost this game, it would have shook my confidence. I'm someone that, as you know, have been very high on the Bills all season. But if they would have lost this game, it would have shook my confidence a little bit. But they were able to do it, and they did it in close fashion, which is, I think, the biggest thing. They showed that they could win a close game against the Chiefs. Remember, last year, they killed the Chiefs on primetime, and it was awesome for Bills fans. But winning that close game, knowing that in a tight situation, you can pull it out against your biggest competitor, that always feels great, and it has to fill them with a ton of confidence. All right, let's transition to another game between our two teams, or one of your teams.
Oh no.
My Atlanta Falcons hosted
No.
your San Francisco 49ers.
Oh. Oh.
And what can I say? The Falcons are now 2-1 against Kyle Shanahan. Both of our teams are now 3-3, which is just insanely weird to say considering the talent gap. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'll let you go here. What are your thoughts?
I
Falcons took a
mean,
14 nothing lead. I'll just quickly recap the game. Falcons
oh
took
yeah,
a
do it.
14 nothing lead. Niners got it all the way back to 14-14. It felt like in a flash, right?
Yeah, they did it in
And
like
then
6 minutes.
the Falcons came out, uh, kind of mid-second quarter went on a touchdown drive, and then Mariota ran for that touchdown, made it 21-14 just before the half. The Niners responded. Jimmy Garoppolo threw an interception, and then the Falcons scored a
That was a
touchdown.
PI, bro. They didn't call
That was a little bit questionable. They
it.
did.
No
I do think
question.
they got a penalty. I don't think it was PI though. And
It
then the
was
Falcons
something like
opened up. Kyle Pitts scored his first touchdown on U.S. soil of his NFL career.
that.
And then, yeah, I mean, the Falcons really, that was essentially the game at that point. The Niners had an interception. You guys went on an 8-minute, drive, which is just, you can get to the clock management of that. I don't know what the hell the Niners were doing, taking 8 minutes down 2 possessions. They ultimately ended up turning it over on downs. And at that point, the game was pretty much over, down 2 scores. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts, Lenny? I know you guys are dealing with a lot of injuries again.
I mean, like, it's just sad because we have the roster, we have the coaching, both sides of the ball, which it's hard for any team to have good coaching on two sides of the ball, which I would even consider elite on both sides of the ball. Like, I think it's definitely reasonable to say that and to be in this position.
Very few teams have
Uh,
that. Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's not it's weird because it's the injuries, and it's also just the matchups in this game. Like I said before, we both said going into this game, the receivers, two big physical guys against a secondary that's not only beat up but undersized. I mean, there were a bunch of matchups I could see the Falcons exploiting in this game, but to lose to the Falcons, Broncos, and the Bears in 6 weeks, it's just a gut punch, man. It's just like we know how good we are. We know we can play this to this ability. We've done it. It's just it's just about doing it, and I don't
Consistently.
know, consistently. And last year, even though we made the NFC Championship game, we're one loss away from the Super Bowl winning Rams in the regular season to missing the playoffs entirely. I mean, it's just like, and the difference for me is just, I mean, I love Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously, but I think it's just about having that quarterback that can elevate. And I know who Jimmy Garoppolo is, and I'm not like mad at him for playing this way because I expect it. This is just how he plays. I'm not like oh god, this is Jimmy Garoppolo, because it's not new. This is just how he plays, and I'm used to that. But if you have like a guy who can elevate past that when things start to go wrong, because newsflash, in the NFL things go wrong. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw it in this game: bad matchups plus injuries equals things go wrong. You can't have a quarterback that will not respond when things go wrong, which that's just what it is with Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's just tough to be in this position, considering that we've had injury troubles every single year under the Niners Shanahan regime. Not that I'm blaming Shanahan directly, but it's just tough. It's just hard. It's just hard to lose to the
Yeah.
Falcons, Bears, and the Broncos, man.
Yeah, I saw someone tweet this out. The Niners have played probably the easiest schedule in football. I mean, we can go through it. Bears, bad team. Seahawks, bad team. Broncos, at this point, looking like a bad team.
They played like a bad team against us.
Rams, decent.
All right.
Panthers, worst team in football. Falcons, decent. So they have not played. The Chiefs this week are going to be the first good team fully that you guys have played, and you guys are entering it 3-3. Like this, I think was the stretch the Niners needed to get off to a hot start because their schedule does get tougher in the second
Yep.
half of the year. So they're going to have
The
to win a lot of
Chargers,
these
Saints,
50-50
Falcons.
games. Miami probably with Tua back, Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
at
The
Seattle's
Raiders.
never
The
a free
Raiders.
at Seattle's never a free win, as you know. Rams are never, Rams are still fighting. So I mean, this was the time where the Niners should have been like a 5-1 team. I think you can lose one of these games; it happens. But 3-3 is a little disappointing. I'm going to take this from the Falcons' perspective, though. I am so proud of this team. I don't know if
Oh,
I've
here we
expressed it
go.
enough.
Here we go. All right.
This team, they're the only team that is undefeated against the spread. They covered in every game. I'll just go through it. Like lost to the Saints in a game they should have won. They were the better team. They lost to the Ram. They almost came back from a 128-3 lead against the Rams, which is hilarious. They lost, ended up
Yeah, oh
losing
my God.
basically on a Mariota interception. Beat Seattle, beat Cleveland. Was a bad call away from getting the ball with the chance to win at Tampa and then beat the Niners. So like I'm impressed. I think the job Arthur Smith has done this season it does warrant him Coach of the Year consideration because I think just based
Yeah.
on this year alone, he's outcoached both Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan in games. I think what he's doing with this team, elevating them to a 3-3 level to where this team's not a 3-3 football team. They're not talent wise. Like what I think the over under for this team is like 4.5 entering the year. They're gonna slam that. I think I had them at like 3 wins. I have they've matched my overall season
Here we go.
expectations
There they
by
are.
week 6. That's insane. So
I thought
yeah,
they were
I
that
mean
bad.
the defense is far off. Obviously, I mean AJ Terrell's awesome, Grady Jarrett's amazing, but other than that, not great. I thought Marcus Mariota played the best game of the season in this game.
Marigota.
He barely threw. He
Marigota.
pulled the Jimmy G, barely threw the ball, but was super efficient when he did. They ran the ball all right, not great, but they made a couple of nice explosive run plays. I do think the size was a bit of an issue for the Niners. London made some plays. Pitts in the red zone, finally catching a touchdown. And yeah, I mean, this team, eighth in EPA offense right now, just seventh in success rate offense. Just Arthur Smith overachieving right now. I feel like there's a lot of coaches in the league. I don't know if you feel about this, Lenny, that are underachieving given the talent that they have at their disposal. But I think Arthur Smith, along with a guy like Brian Zabel, your guy Robert Saleh, I feel like these guys are overachieving given their talent level and should be praised for that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I agree with everything you said. I always thought Arthur Smith was underrated, though, uh, especially for the job he did last year, considering he turned like Cordell Patterson, a kick returner that, he was basically a meme for a while. Like, oh, there's Cordell Patterson on his like 10th team, right? Into like a legit NFL offensive star. I mean, that's not easy to do. I mean, it took him like till he's what 34 right now. I mean, he's pretty old at this point.
Yeah.
Like that is hard to do, and he made Kyle Pitts really good last year. I mean, just credit to Arthur Smith. I always thought he was a pretty good coach, but he's proven me right here. Yeah, I'm not like sad that we lost. I'm sad that like that we've lost consecutively to the Bears, Broncos, and Falcons. If we beat the Bears or the Broncos, okay, fine. We lose to the Broncos or the Bears, and then the Falcons. We're 4-2. Like we can deal with that. But now, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. I just can't get over it. It's just like
No,
it's
I
just a
get it.
bummer.
It's
It's just a
frustrating,
bummer.
right?
It's just a bummer. It's like I mean, it's just gonna make things so much harder like than they needed to. And, yeah.
I'll tell you what else is a bummer. It's the Green Bay Packers fans right
Mm.
now.
Oh yeah.
Jets 27, Packers 10. We talk about winners first on this show, Lenny. That's the new rule. We're talking about the winning
Okay, we'll
team
talk about
first.
winners first, and then we'll go
The New
depression.
York Jets now 4-2 on the year. I thought entering the week they were a little overvalued. They beat a Dolphins team that didn't have their quarterback after literally the first play of the game. Uh, Completely unprepared to play with Skylar Thompson, and I mean, how can you blame them, right? But
Yeah.
the Jets came out in this game, started slow for both teams. Both defenses really dominated the first half. It was a 3-3 game. But the Jets came out and just straight up whooped the Packers' ass up front. You would have loved it.
Yes, they physicaled
Uh,
them. They out physicaled them.
the Packers' special teams continues to be a problem. The Jets made multiple good special teams plays in this game. The Jets were able to run it down the Packers' throat, and they killed the game with the field goal late. Zach Wilson was 11 of 19 for 110 passing yards, 6.1 per attempt.
They're using us.
Zach Wilson didn't have some great game. That's not why they won. They just simply out physicaled and out coached the Green Bay Packers in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Sala has always been a coach that can get the most out of players' energy. That's always like it's not a schematic thing. He's not like D'Amico Ryans, where he's just a wizard, right? He's just good at getting guys to play physical, getting guys to play hard. And sometimes it's all a recipe needs to win. You don't necessarily need the better talent. Sometimes matchups will just dictate themselves, and you'll just out physical a team. I mean, let's just talk about 2011 or 2007 Patriots versus Giants, right? Everyone in their minds would have said the Patriots were a better team because they were, obviously, both years. But the Giants took it to them, out physicaled them. And, obviously that wasn't the only reason, but it was definitely a big reason why in both games, or all three games, they won. It just seemed like they looked tired. They looked very worn down. And I'm always a homer for the O line, the Jets O line, or just any O line that can out physical a team, because that's just a big thing to have when you can get an entire offense or entire defense on their heels, ready to be like, I don't want to play anymore. That's what it felt like. It felt like they didn't want to be on the field after a while. And yeah, man, the Jets. I don't think they're like. I don't know how good they are, but they're for sure a team that's going to give teams problems just because of how physical they play and how much emotion they play. I'm just still not 100% on the quarterback position. I don't know if Zach Wilson is still. It's similar to Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I don't know if he's going to show up when things start going wrong, because lately things have been going well. Their O line's been giving them time to block. The receivers have been good and open. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis actually been playing decent. But when things start to go down, I just don't know. I'm gonna have to see it.
Yeah, and I think we both were higher on the Jets in the offseason than some people, just on their roster. But like the Jets are legitimately a pretty talented team now, and I guess
Yeah, they're solid.
picking in the top 10 for 6 consecutive years will do that to you. But man, like that offensive line has become pretty good to me. Brees Hall is a stud.
Brees
Michael
Hall, yeah,
Carter's also pretty good. Um, Barrios even had a rushing touchdown in this game on a kind of a trick play from Mike LaFleur.
Mike.
Uh, they have a real again a solid offensive line, but the defensive line and defensive front seven
Oh
contribute.
yeah, I meant to say. I forgot to mention the D line did the same thing. They all physical.
Quinnen Williams, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 4 solo tackles, 5 total tackles, 3 quarterback hits. Absolute beast in this
Dog,
game.
dog.
Uh, John Franklin Myers, similar, just absolute animal. Sheldon
Karloff.
Rankins, even. I haven't heard that name in a while, but he even got in on some of the action. The Jets' defensive line totally dominated the Green Bay Packers' offensive line.
Yeah.
And then the Packers right now are not a good football team, Lenny. I got to like the Jets today. What's scary to me is if I'm a Packers fan, is the Jet. It didn't look like a fluke. It didn't look like the Jets just hit some random plays out of the over the top and just beat the Packers kind of in a fluky manner that only happens 2 out of 10 times. Like it looks like the Jets were just a better team because they might just be a better team than Green Bay. Green Bay is not a good team right now. They don't have receivers that can separate consistently. They don't have an offensive line that's getting enough push in either the pass or run game, right? They don't have a defense that's playing up to their billing. Their coaching is poor. Their quarterback plays, quite frankly, has significantly declined from what it has been the last 2 years. Their run game is hit or miss. Like, what does this team do well right now consistently?
Well, I think first of all, they do a good job at running the ball. They usually do a decent job at it. I think it's more sticking to the run that's been their biggest problem on offense, or not biggest problem, one of their bigger problems on offense. Like you said, the biggest problem probably is their lack of talent at receiver. Someone needs to step up. The group needs to step up as a whole. Aaron Rodgers has never been or hasn't been a quarterback in a while that is going to take like nothing and turn it into something like I don't know. It's not easy for any quarterback to do that,
Josh
but
Allen, I think, has done that at times, though.
yeah, no, Josh Allen in what was it,
Herbert
2019 did
too.
that. Herbert, yeah. Anyway, he hasn't been a quarterback, at least in my eyes, that can turn nothing into something. And right now, they quite frankly don't have anything at receiver at the very least. Robert Tunyon is their best receiver right now, probably. And he's not even. He was
He's
a
like the
system guy. Like,
14th best tight end in football.
yeah, I mean,
Maybe
they
12.
lost. I mean, we've been saying for years, get a receiver.
Even when
What's
they had
gonna happen
Devontae
when Devontae
Adams.
wants? I know when they had Devontae, it was like, oh, he's gonna want money soon. Maybe you want to like put something in place to replace it. Maybe you want to have a second option. It's always been their problem. Get receivers, and they're like, no, we're gonna wait till the second round to get Christian Watson instead of getting like Justin Jefferson in 2020 and where 2021 instead of
Yeah.
like, I mean, like, oh my,
You know.
it's just like, I mean, they reaped their bed, they made their bed, and now they have to lay in it now. And Aaron Rodgers is mad, and I don't know. I don't like really have a lot to say about the Packers because this is like the same problem that it's always been. They don't have receivers because they don't want to get any receivers.
And like this team too, they've looked good in one game this year. That was the
Vikings.
Bears game. Like they've
Oh no,
got
the Bears game. That's right. No, it was
they
the
got
Vikings.
killed. They got
Yeah.
killed by Minnesota. They looked good in the first half against Tampa, then totally shut down offensively. Really won that game because Tampa had zero receivers that were NFL caliber. They beat New England with Bailey Zappi and making his first ever game in overtime at home.
Okay, Bailey Zappi might not be that bad.
I know, but he was making his first ever. He was playing his first ever
Yeah,
game.
no, I get it. I'm just joking.
And their offense was relegated to like swing passes and inside zone runs. So they blew the lead to the Giants last week. We'll get to the Giants a little bit later, but
The G-men.
and now this game they just get totally dominated. Like this was their worst performance of the season. So
Yeah.
I mean, and it's kind of weird because we're seeing you made a video about 10 months ago regarding the quarterback
Oh my
position.
gosh.
And it's
I did.
actually aged. I give credit to you. It's aged really well. Like I'm just watching this year. The guys that I've started watching football about 13 years ago. The guys who are still starting from when I began watching: Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, and Matt Ryan. Brady's kind of a part of two eras. He's part of that era, and he's also a part of the Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Philip Rivers, Eli era, that kind of 2000s era,
Mhm.
right? But Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan, all in that 2010s, firmly early 2010s, late 2000s on kind of era, right?
Yeah.
And all of them, I think, are regressing right now. Like Rodgers is not playing nearly as well as he did last year. Brady is not playing nearly as well as he did last year. Matt Stafford's throwing interceptions for fun. Matt Ryan had a really good game yesterday, but overall this season has not been very hot. So
Mhm.
it appears that like the quarterback position is changing, and these older pocket passers are kind of getting left in the dust a little bit.
Yeah, it was that point combined with the point that uh, the quarterback position has generally just not played as good as we're expecting it to. Like last year, Aaron Rodgers won MVP and nobody like cared. Like everyone, oh, okay,
Because it
like
wasn't as
because
good
no
as the
one,
year before.
all the guys who used to be really good are declining, and all the guys that are going to be good eventually aren't there yet. So everyone's just kind of like at a lower bar, except for the guys who
The
were
Mahomes and the
already
Allen
good,
worlds. Yeah.
who are already developed into that guy, or trending down. That was the whole point. And eventually, obviously, it'll come back up again because that's just how, like economics, it goes up and down, up and
Yeah.
down. But we're at that point right now where it's
It's like
right.
the
It's
it's like
coming up.
the it's like the 1997-98 NBA where like the
No
Kobe
LeBron.
Duncan era wasn't fully there yet, but the early 90s era wasn't there anymore. It was a weird thing where like there were only a few teams competing for the title at the time. But yeah, keeping it in the NFL. Let's move on to a game that quite honestly is disgusting. The Tampa Bay
Disgusting.
Buccaneers. This is going to be
Oh,
this is going to this is
oh.
going to be the biggest part of the show. Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose 18-20 to a Pittsburgh Steelers team that was 1-4, was without their best player,
Oh.
Had their quarterback get injured and just lost by like half 100 points. It felt like to the Bills, right? So
Yeah.
Lenny, there's a lot of issues in Tampa right now. I just give me your take on the situation. Again, we're gonna start with the winners. Give me some positive about the
The
Steelers,
Steelers?
but then
Okay.
give me just the autopsy on the Buccaneers issues.
Look, the Steelers do this thing every single year, man. They win these stupid
I
games and
told
capitalize
you
on other teams doing stupid stuff. Okay. Credit to the Steelers for actually winning because that is hard, and because this is Tom Brady we're talking about, regardless of whatever happening with him, it's still Tom Brady and his team. Okay, it's a big deal to beat him
they
in
were
any
like what were the
regard.
Bucks like -9.5 entering the
It
game.
was ridiculously big. It was almost 10, I think. I think it was 10 at some point. Anyway, yeah, the Steelers. I didn't really watch a lot of the game, but it seemed like they were playing with energy. It seemed like no one could stop Chase Claypool. I mean, I guess the team got reinvigorated as soon as Mitch Trubisky came in. I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of it, but I can tell you the problems that happened with the Bucks. If you want me to transition there, unless you have
Yes.
something to say about the Steelers.
No,
The
I thought the Steelers
Buccaneers.
played
Oh, there you go.
inspired. I like how Trubisky played. I don't know how long Pickett's out, but I think the story here is obviously the Bucks.
Yes, Tom Brady is the Tom Brady situation is very interesting and very convoluted, and everyone has their own opinion about it. But this is my takeaway. Okay, when you are a player like Tom Brady, who is universally considered the GOAT, you obviously have a right to not participate as much into practices and everything. You have a right to not do that. That is like every player that is old gets to do that. Like JJ Watt does it, Aaron Rodgers does it. Like that's just what you're allowed to do. But when you pick the like family is supposed to be the thing you're hold like most dear to everything, right? That is supposed to be like the thing, like for most people that is your values, your family, and then everything else comes after. To pick football over it and to still take the things you're supposed to have, like okay, so you're not like you're allowed to not be going to practices and start doing that, but when you give up your family to do that, you, people have this expectation that you're gonna like do more. Like, okay, it's like this. Like it's like with Kobe, right? Kobe's always like, yeah, you don't have to go train really hard to be really good, but his whole thing was that you should because it's gonna make you better. It's gonna make your team better. But if Brady's gonna do this thing where he blew up the seemingly what should be the most important thing in his life, and then just not do anything extra to help the team, it just feels selfish. It feels like he's not helping anybody. He's at the point where he's not helping his family, and he's not helping his team as much as he thought he would, or the team thought he was going to. So it's like, okay, I get it. Like he's allowed to do it, but I'm also allowed to be like, dude, why did you do that?
You
You
can
should. I mean,
criticize them for it.
yeah, it's like it's really weird. It's really interesting. I mean, obviously, I don't
It's
know
like
Tom
super
Brady.
convoluted
It's
situation.
super convoluted. I mean, I'm not. I don't hate Tom Brady like a lot of people do.
No.
But with the Steelers game, it's just stupid to me. Like, just pick one. You know, like I get it. You have to do your own stuff, but like get mad at me for being annoyed by it. I mean, your team is just not playing that good, and it's partly because you're taking the like I don't know. It's like you're on a diet, right? You're on a diet, and you're like I don't know, like your diet group needs you to stay at a certain weight to to win something, right? Like to win the being at a certain weight. I don't know. This is a convoluted thing, but and
It's
then
like
it's like you're older, right? You're allowed to have some cookies. You're allowed to eat some of the cookies.
yeah,
Like we're not like the whole team's struggling right now. Everyone's not doing a great job. Okay. And Brady's like, I'm gonna still eat cookies. I'm gonna take some cookies anyway. And it's like, you don't know, you need to help us. And he's like, no, I'm gonna take some cookies. Yeah, I don't know if that made
it's
any
kind of
sense, but
selfish.
it just feels selfish because you're not helping anybody except for yourself, and you're not even really helping yourself. It just feels stupid. I'm
Do
done.
you have any other takes on the Bucks?
I think their defense is disappointing considering how good it played in the beginning of the year. I expect it to turn around at some point, but they got to figure out some stuff in the up front. I think up front they haven't played as good as they have early in the season with pass rush.
Yeah, I mean, I look. There was and if you guys have watched this podcast for long enough, you'll know that the entire offseason, basically after Brady unretired, I was like, the Bucks have all the talent to win the Super Bowl. They have probably the best roster with the Bills and Eagles in the league, and I still think that to be true. But I question their internal dynamics. I question their leaders' motivations right now. And you and Mitch both were looking at me almost as if I had two heads when I started to say
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Like, what? This is Tom Brady. Why are you questioning his commitment to football? He's always been committed to football. He loves it more than
Yeah.
anything. Um, but I always wondered because, like, let's just look at ever since the Bucks lost to the Rams last year. Okay, so they lose the heartbreaker to the Rams. Then Brady retires. He
Yeah.
then unretires. Then, like 2 weeks after he unretires, Arians gets fired. It might not even been that long. Like Arians get didn't
It
feel like
wasn't that
Arians
long.
got fired immediately after he unretired.
Yeah, it felt like it was a response to what Brady wanted. It felt like he was like, I'll come back if you fire Bruce Arians.
And we know now that Brady and Arians, just like Brady and Belichick, didn't get along great, especially at the end. And I think both of us actually saw that happening before everyone else did, along with Mitch. But that ended up being confirmed true. And then there was the whole Dolphins rumor thing, right? Like, is he
Mhm.
going to play for the Dolphins? Like, and that ended up being confirmed true as well. The tampering stuff, remember from a couple months ago? So
Yeah.
like he was being courted by Miami, and he was entertaining offers going back to his New England days. And then he takes what 11 days off from camp in the preseason, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna come back, but I'm gonna take Wednesdays off, and he takes every Wednesday off. I think he came back for one or two of them, but he mostly takes every Wednesday off now. And then there's this whole thing with his divorce, right? Like we know that Brady and Giselle are getting divorced. They hired divorce lawyers, and there's been this whole family drama with him. And now, even like, there's the whole wedding thing. Like, he was in New York City on a Friday night attending Robert Kraft's wedding. I understand, and me and Mitch got into this whole argument last night about it. But I
Yeah, it
know
was
how
quite
close Brady
spectacular.
and Kraft are. I know Kraft thinks of Brady as a son. But if you, Lenny, I'm going to ask you a question because you seem to know Tom Brady at least decently enough well about his history and his work ethic. Because I know
Okay.
you respect that. Do you think 2012 Tom Brady would have been in New York City at a wedding 2 days before a football game?
No, no. Tom Brady was bought more dedicated to like proving his legacy, or maybe not like that, but he wanted to like he was very dedicated to wanting to win. Like he was like, I want to put everything on the line to win. I remember in the what's it called, that Brady documentary, he was talking about how to like
Man in the
Giselle
arena,
was like,
right?
all he does is like work and work and work, and
Yeah.
it was during that 20 after he lost to the Giants. Yeah, I don't think so.
The
That
guy,
definitely probably
the
wasn't gonna happen.
guy won 3 Super Bowls in like the first 4 years of his career. At that point, he could have retired, and it would have been a hell of a career. He may have made the Hall of Fame for that.
Probably.
He then goes on to play what, like, this is like 18 years since then, and
It's
he's
18
had,
years since that. Yeah.
yeah, like, this is the Brady and LeBron are the two American athletes that I consider the greatest of my lifetime. But like, the thing with Brady is he was always committed. He was always fully committed to the team no matter what. It was always like Rodney Harrison will say, I would come into the weight room and work out at 5:30 a.m. and Brady will be like, "Oh, hey, good afternoon. I've been here for an hour and a half already." Because it was true, because Brady did that. Starting even when he was a backup to Bledsoe in 2000 and 2001. Um, but the last 9 months or so has not been that. And I frankly think he should be held accountable for it because they're suffering from their leader right now. The thing that Brady always provided, even 2 years ago when they won their Super Bowl, was the leadership, right? that leadership of that Tampa team, organizing everybody together, working with Godwin and Evans during COVID in like empty fields. Um, remember that? Like
Yeah, yeah, they
he's
got in
not
trouble
doing
for it.
that. He's not committed to this team right now. And every time, and I flag this every single week, every single time you watch the guy on the field, he just looks miserable every time. And he may as well just get a skywriter to write up above Raymond James Stadium, "I don't want to be here, Tom Brady." Like that's because that's what he's essentially saying. He either wants to be retired, which I don't know why he unretired at this point, or he wants to be in Miami,
He
and that
wanted to prove Adam Schefter
we know
wrong.
why that fell through. Like I don't know. I'm getting frustrated with the guy at the minute. And I don't hate Tom Brady. I've never really hated Tom Brady. Obviously, I'm a huge Peyton Manning guy. We both are. Me probably
Peyton.
more so, but
Oh yeah, you
I've also
definitely
I'm
are.
also like I'm not biased about this stuff. I know Brady's been the GOAT for like 8 years or something. So I'm not biased about that. I know he's the GOAT. He cemented his legacy when he won that Super Bowl in Tampa. Like there was nothing he had to prove after that. But frankly, the guy's hurting his team right now with the lack of leadership, frankly. The guy just does he seem like a good teammate right now? He's yelling at
No,
the
he's
offense.
a good, he's a decent teammate. I
But
think
he
he's still
yelled at
fine.
the entire
He still
offense.
adds to the team that he's still Tom Brady.
He
Like
yelled at the
that is
entire
still
he yelled at the entire offensive line.
as he should. No, I okay.
But it didn't but
It
here's
looks
the thing, Lenny.
worse
Lenny,
because
I don't
they're
have a problem with
losing.
that. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is it didn't change at all. Nothing changed. They were still giving up pressures and sacks after that. There was no improvement. So
Like it's not
are the
like Brady can
players
do
are
anything
the
about it.
players
I
looking
don't
at
know.
it now? Is it affecting the other players? Are the players looking at it as this guy doesn't really care. He's just yelling at us to be a dick, and we're not going to play for him because right now, like,
Okay, now I think you're going a little too far off. I think you're going a little too far the other way. Yeah, I was with you, and now you're kind of losing me. Like, okay, I get the concern. Like, of course, it's Tom Brady. Like, he's not taking it seriously. Why should I take it seriously? But at the end of the day, these people are playing for money. Number one,
yeah,
just to
obviously,
be dead honest, like they're playing for money. Number one, and number two, if you're on defense, like I know we always make the joke, like, oh, Tom Brady motivates like the defense, right? But if you're on defense and like whatever's going on offense, you don't really care. Like you're
no, I'm
not gonna
not. But I'm
care.
not talking about the
I don't know.
defense. I'm talking about the offensive line.
Sure, I guess the
Like,
offensive
remember,
line.
like,
I mean,
and the thing is, he's
I
not
don't know.
adding. What
I
I'm
don't
trying to
know.
say is, he's not adding anything right now. Like he used to,
Yeah,
he would always add stuff from a leadership perspective. Remember what we said all offseason was Brady would enhance this offensive line by sheer leadership and release. And his release is still quick as hell. It's almost too quick though, because he's getting out of. It looks like he doesn't want to take a hit anymore ever. He's getting the ball out so quick every time. Their big play capability is being lessened right now.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think right
I know you
now
didn't
that
watch the game. I watched parts of it. I didn't watch all of it. Just that's just my takeaway. Like I frankly, the last 9 months, I'm not impressed with the guy at all. I think he's
yeah, all
come out
right.
as attention seeking, and he doesn't seem, quite frankly, like a great teammate like he used to be, and as
I
committed.
yeah, I mean, like he went from the greatest teammate to like an average teammate in my mind. Like that's just what I think most quarterbacks would do. What Tom Brady's doing right now at age 35, at age 34. I don't. I think
But
that's
like the thing isn't his play.
he just
Like
went average.
he's
He's
amazing.
average.
Still, he's one of the
He's
best
still a good
quarterbacks in football.
player. I don't know. With Tom Brady, it's just like I'm gonna laugh at you because it's funny how much you fumbled this, but I don't think the team is gonna be like suffer that bad.
But at this
How
point,
badly do
why
you
did
think it's
he
gonna suffer?
unretire?
I
That's my
don't know.
question.
People make stupid decisions. Everyone makes. You've made stupid decisions. I make
I
stupid
have.
decisions.
No, that's true.
Everyone in the NFL has made stupid decisions. It was an impulse decision for sure. Like I'm not like gonna. He's not like the smartest guy in the world. He can see everything all the time.
I don't
He's
know.
a human. I don't. I he's
I
human.
feel like he
I don't know.
really handled this entire thing really poorly.
He handled it badly, but like at the same time, his family's like I don't know. Rob Gronkowski just like bounced on him. He's
I
like,
think they,
"Bye, I
I
don't
think
want to be
he,
here
I think they
anymore."
do miss, like, we were critical of Arians. I think they miss Arians right now badly. I think they miss Gronk badly. I think this defense, which we can talk about now, because remember there was the Devin White thing too about how they just lose focus when they get a lead. Remember about that?
Yeah, but that's
They
true
didn't look
though.
very focused without the lead because they didn't have it all game. Devin White. I'm looking at you, who was one of the worst defenders on the fields last night. Like, I don't know. Like, I just, this team in general is just, their locker room seems like a total mess, and there's so
You
many
know what? I'm going to
distractions.
tell you right now. I think I'm just. We've been talking about the Bucks for a long time. I think I'm just going to tell you right now. If I trust any player in NFL history to bring a divided locker room together, I trust Tom Brady. That's just what I'm going to say about that. I think we're just.
All
I
right,
think we should just drop it.
we can wrap it up on that note. I'm still gonna take the Bucks as, I'm not gonna count the Bucks out because the NFC is so bad.
Dude, they could still make the Super Bowl. The NFC sucks. Like they could. I'm just kidding.
If you were to ask me right now, who would, in terms of odds to make the Super Bowl in the NFC, I'd go Eagles one because you have to put the Eagles there.
Yeah, Eagles have played really
I'd
well.
put Dallas at two at this point with Dak coming back.
What?
I
Oh yeah,
seriously
okay.
would,
Upside. The upside with Dak is pretty well
and then I'd
if he
put
plays
Tampa
healthy.
at three still. But I don't know. I just feel like there's issues with this team. I think their defense is overrated. I think their offense is disjointed, and I think their leader is hurting them in terms of a chemistry standpoint, and that's affecting the entire team.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's
I
talk
get
about
it.
Tom Brady's old team, and that
His
is
old
the New
team.
England Patriots, who aren't suffering from any chemistry issues because their quarterback, Bailey Zapp, looking very much like Brady did 20 years ago, is fully committed, fully bought in. And Bill Belichick right now getting the most out of a fairly limited roster.
People need
Is
to
that
chill
fair
on
to
the
say?
Belichick hate. Wait, what did you say?
Is it fair to say he's getting the most out of a fairly
Oh,
limited
yeah,
team?
no, for sure. I mean, anytime you got your backup quarterback and your third string quarterback and you're winning games, I'm gonna give you against good teams. I mean, at least we think they're good teams, right? I mean, the Browns are decent. I mean, the Ravens,
Respectable teams.
the respectable teams. I think that's a better way to say it. The Browns have some talent. They aren't an easy win by any standard. The Patriots aren't like a Super Bowl team at this point. They almost beat the Ravens. They almost beat the Packers, even though we trashed them a little bit. They're still a respectable team. And yeah, I mean, beating the Browns like this, I figured that they would. I really like. I mean, going into this game, I think we all said that the Patriots just kind of own the Browns. I don't know what Kevin Stefanski's like 1993 offense, and the Browns' lackluster defense made for a good little mosh pot for the Patriots. But yeah, Belichick is making the best out of a defense that lost J.C. Jackson and really didn't add a lot of talent through free agency or like any big names, but through the draft and undrafted free
Yeah.
agents and just building through their culture and just like they've always done. They've always done this. They've always gotten guys left the building and then got guys in and built them through their culture. They've always given big opportunities. It's just been for now like their offense and just getting that together. That's been their problem since Brady's left. Their defense has been great. It's just figuring out that offense, and I guess Matt Patricia is secretly Kyle Shanahan, Bill Walsh combined over there, making things happen with Bailey Zapp and like I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of opinions about the Patriots. I just think they are doing what they've always done as a cultural standpoint. Belichick's holding the team accountable. They're going to be well conditioned. They're going to be well coached. They're going to do what they need to do. But talent on offense, I don't know if that's sustainable. I don't know. We're going to have to see in the future. But yeah, Patriots looking like a playoff team right now.
Yeah, and like they seem like the antithesis of the Bucks right now.
That's
Honestly,
true. They do. They look like the inverse. They look like
they
yeah.
aren't as talented, but they're better. Their chemistry's so much better, and they're playing above their level instead of below their level right now because of their coaching. Because Tampa's coaching is bad, and New England's coaching is excellent right now. The Browns have one of the best run games in the league, right? I mean,
Yes.
currently they're first in rush EPA still. They're fourth in rush success rate
Hold on.
offensively. Uh, Nick Chubb ran for 4.7 yards a carry, but one of them was on an 18-yard carry. The Browns only ran for 3.9 yards a carry. We always talk about Belichick taking your biggest strength and not allowing that to beat you. That's what happened in this game, essentially. When the Browns couldn't run the ball, Jacoby Brissett threw the ball 45 times. They ran the
Did
ball
he really?
18.
Oh my
They ran the
gosh.
ball 18 times. That's a recipe for disaster if you're Cleveland.
Yes.
Um, Bailey Zappi is playing really well right now for what he's asked to do in the system. And quite honestly, that's not what Mac Jones was doing earlier in the year. Now, I don't buy all this. Like, I still think Zappi's probably better than Cooper Rush. Obviously, Mac Jones isn't as good as Dak. I don't buy all this Zappi's better than Mac Jones stuff. Mac Jones still had a pretty good rookie year last year, in case everyone is forgetting. I still think Mac Jones is the quarterback if this team wants to go to the playoffs or do
As you
anything.
should. As you should.
But Bailey Zappi's playing well, man. And if nothing else, he may get himself an opportunity to be a starter elsewhere next season with how he's played this year. Their run game is, I mean, it didn't do much in this game. I mean, they ran for 3.4 yards a carry and they were still able to win because Belichick kind of adjusts according to the situation. And he counters what you do and finds a way to be effective while doing that. And their receivers had a good game. I mean, Parker 4 for 64, Henry 4 for 61, Jonnu Smith had a big catch, Myers 4 for 60, Tyquan Thornton had a touchdown, Kendrick Bourne had a 17-yard catch, Ramondre Stevenson had 4 catches. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. Just a balanced attack, and I'm impressed with what the Patriots have done. I think the Browns will be better once Watson gets back, but I think the real thing is next year with them, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
think it's this year.
I don't know what their cap space is going to look like next year, but they definitely have to add talent on defense. Maybe not talent. I think just coaching, but I think as long as they what's it called? Um, keep talent. What's the word? Like retain talent.
Retain,
As
yeah.
long as they retain their talent and keep obviously the guys we have now, I think they'll be decent. They'll probably make the playoffs. But we'll have to see what Deshaun Watson looks like in this offense, which we haven't seen yet.
All right. The New York Giants took down your Super Bowl prediction, the Baltimore Ravens,
Dude, the Ravens,
24 to
bro. Oh my
20.
gosh.
The Giants are now 5-1. Are you buying them as
For
like a
what?
playoff
What?
team?
Sure, they'll make the playoffs.
Oh, you're just saying they'll make it.
Yeah, dude, look at their roster. I don't like. No, they don't. No, I'm okay. All right, all right. There's only so much coaching can do once you play a really great team. Okay, like of course Saquon has just been like this is the most
Wait.
running
So you
back.
don't think they'll make the playoff?
No,
Wait.
they will make the playoffs,
Okay,
but I'm
that's what I
not
was
buying
wondering.
them as an actual playoff of anything of
Like
value.
you're not buying them as a
They're
Super
gonna
Bowl
get
team.
enough wins to make the playoffs. I just don't think they're that good. Like I
No,
don't
I
think
agree
they're
with
good.
that. I agree with that. I think they've won a lot of close games and a lot of them against bad teams.
I think they've been preying on the other teams, just like what's it called? Uh, not playing to where they usually do. Like what's it called? It's like when they underperform, but
They're
because
overperforming, I guess.
no, it's like when the team that you're playing is
Oh,
better than
their
you.
opponents are underperforming.
They're playing down to their competition. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
This like every team that they played is playing down to their competition because they're the Giants. Like, oh, okay, they're whatever, and then they win because they're well coached and they're coming in ready to play. Which credit to Brian Dable, but when you get into a playoff game or when you get into like a really high tense situation for a playoff to get into the playoffs, the other team's going to come ready to play too, and it just doesn't feel like the teams that they've been playing have been playing like they didn't show up, like they didn't play like they usually do. And it's not because the Giants have been doing anything spectacular. Their defense has been good. Their offense has been productive considering everything that's happened. But it just doesn't seem like the teams are showing up, and that's just something that happens sometimes in football. I think we've seen it with the Steelers when they went like 10-1 at 10-0 at one point. We've seen it with the Bears when they made the playoffs. This isn't like a thing that's super abnormal. I just think the Giants just don't have enough
You
separating
think like
factors when it happens.
a lot of the things that could be going right for them relative to this season are?
Yes.
Is that what you're kind of trying to say?
And when
Or
you're in a playoff game or in a high stress situation, that's not gonna like
yeah, I
things
mean,
aren't gonna go your way. And
this
I don't
team
know.
basically has no playoff experience whatsoever. Like
That's it.
Daniel Jones
Except for
never went to
Brian
the playoffs.
Dable.
Saquon's never. I mean, Brian Zabel's won national championships. He's won a Super Bowl, I think. But
He was with the Bills for the last like 3 years.
yeah, I mean,
Touchdown.
Bills, Patriots, Alabama. You're gonna have experience there, but other than that, no. Like Daniel Jones has never been in the play. You know who this team kind of reminds me of, Lenny?
Who?
Last year's Titans, a little bit.
Yeah, I
They
don't
have
think
a
they're gonna get the number
quarterback
one
that
seed,
is
but
shaky, but has days where he's actually pretty good, and is kind of managing the game decently well right now. Like Daniel Jones only threw 27 passes for 173 yards, but 2 touchdowns, 112 rating. Oh, that'll get it done. Saquon, of course, best running back in football right now. Him and Nick Chubb. Their offensive line is playing better. Evan Neal's gotten it together a little bit more recently, Lenny. Their interior is doing
boo.
their interior is doing okay, and then Andrew Thomas is playing absolutely out of this world. My boy from Georgia. And their defense is competitive. They've got some playmakers there, like Leonard Williams, who had a good game against the Ravens. And I mean, they're not a great defense. Good offenses, very good offenses will have success against them and move the football against them effectively. But they play competitively enough to do decent against a lot of offenses, I would say, a lot like the Titans last year. And they have matchup advantages, and they're a really well coached team, just like the Titans were last year. Except the one difference, the Titans had a great coach in Mike Vrabel. The Giants have a great coaching staff. The Giants have both Brian Dable and Wink Martindale, right? That
Yeah,
is something. Wink Martindale's the other experience on this team.
what a grab for the Giants to get that
Yeah.
guy. Like out of
And
nowhere.
speaking
I
of
mean,
Wink
like
Martindale, his old team, Lenny, I mean, I felt like the Ravens had this one. And Lamar, for the third straight week, he was the MVP frontrunner
I
after week
told
three.
you were like, how is Lamar not going to win MVP? I'm like, because they never play that good for the entire season, and now you're so shocked to see he's not playing as good as
No,
he
but
was
like
before.
this is 3 straight weeks, Lenny, of him just
3 straight weeks is crazy.
playing.
Sorry,
Eh.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
But
being
he's
mean.
kind of lost it in this MVP thing. I think Josh Allen's starting to run away with it a little
Yeah,
bit.
him and Mahomes have kind of like ran away with it. Which again, I don't think they're going to be like the favorite by the end of the season either. I think there's going to be someone else because there always is.
But are you worried about the Ravens?
No, because have you seen their schedule? They
No.
don't haven't they okay, I'm gonna
Here,
read
I'll
you
look it
who
up.
they play.
Okay, if you want to read it, okay.
I will read it to they play nobody and it's actually kind of funny. They play the Bucks, that's the best team they play. They play the Browns, the Bucks, which yeah, of course, the
But that's a
Saints, which
winnable game.
uh okay, now this is when everything goes to crap, okay? Panthers, Jags, Broncos, Steelers, Browns, Falcons, Steelers, and then Bengals.
I
Like
think
those
the
are all
only
games they should win,
they
right? I
might
mean,
be an underdog in Tampa, might at this point, and then they
might.
might be an underdog in Cincinnati in the last game of the year.
And they'll
That's it.
probably lose to the Steelers one time because that's a good rivalry game, and they might lose one other fluke game. But like, they'll be fine. They'll beat the AFC South team. They'll either get the third or second seed, and they'll win the division. I guess what I'm more worried about is how they play in the playoffs, and I expect that when that Lamar and this team will probably play good, good enough to win. I mean, like it's hard because it's going to be a third seed versus probably the fifth seed. Wait, is that how that works? Is it fifth?
It's
No, fifth and
it's
fourth.
2 versus 7, 3-6, 4 versus 5.
Okay, so they'll probably play the sixth seed then, right? Yeah, they're going to be either the
If
third or
they're the
second
three
seed.
seed, then they'll play the 6 seed.
Yeah, so they'll have to play a second. The okay, you know what I'm trying to say. They'll have to
I
play
know
the
what you're
sixth
trying to
seed,
say. Yeah,
and
for sure.
I don't think the sixth seed is going to be like that good. So then they'll probably win a wild card game. Like I could see this. This is going to be a decent season for them. I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl, like I said, but
I don't see them like falling apart or anything, barring any
No, I
like
still think
Lamar injuries.
I still think they're one of the 5 best teams in the league. I'm not that
Yeah,
concerned. I'm far more concerned about what Tampa displayed than what Baltimore displayed, for example.
yeah. Lamar,
Uh,
I mean, the Ravens should have won that game. They
yeah,
almost did.
like I'm looking at the stats now. Ravens 7 yards per play, 20 points. That's not going to
Yeah,
happen. That they averaged like 7 yards per play against Miami and scored like 38.
the upside the
To
Ravens
average
have
that
showcased has been really good.
to,
Sorry, you go ahead.
to be that effective but score that few points offensively is just not a sustainable thing.
It's not.
The Giants averaged 3.8 yards per play and scored 24 points. Like they dominated this game. That what I liked is they got some of their running backs going.
Mhm.
Kenyon Drake was 10 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown.
11.9 yards per carry.
Really efficient game from him. Of course, Lamar is always going to be a threat. And they did well against Saquon. Saquon 22 carries for 83 yards. That's not even 4 yards a carry. He did not have a great game. The Giants were able to win, which is impressive by the Giants. But I mean, Justin Tucker missed a field goal, which he never does from inside 60. So I don't know. I'm not that concerned about the Ravens. Like I think the Ravens will be fine. I think as they
They've
get
been injured
healthier, their
too.
defense will be better. And I mean, their offense wasn't going to be the best in football. I just don't think they had quite the talent to be that. But they're still going to be a top 10, maybe even top 5 offense, I think. So, I mean, they're a pretty
Yeah,
complete team.
yeah. As long as the coaching stays about the same and the injuries start to get better, by the time they get to the playoffs, they'll be decent. And I'm hoping they'll be on a hot streak because let me see what the last games they play here because they're not great. They play
I
the
know they end with
Browns,
Cincinnati.
Falcons, Steelers, and Cincy. Which I mean Browns with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, we don't know how that could be, how that might turn
That's
out.
not bad,
But
actually, because it's not a lot of elite teams, but it's teams that are enough to give them enough of a test.
yeah, they're not going to be like sleepwalking here. They're going to have some teams where they're going to have to play good to win, but
Yeah.
they're not like playing the Bills and Chiefs every week. So
Yeah.
it's like I think they'll be good. They'll have momentum going to the playoffs. I think they'll be fine. They have a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. Tough because they got to play the Bills and the Chiefs, but I think it's wild. I think it's between all three of those guys. I think it's the Ravens, Bills, Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Ravens behind the Bills and the Chiefs, obviously. Like a step. I think it's a little bit of a step.
All right, Lenny, let's talk about Sunday Night Football. I think
Sunday
right now
night.
the game was played between the two best teams in the NFC. The Eagles ended up defeating Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys 26-17. Really weird game.
Yeah,
Eagles
weird
jumped
game.
out to a 20-0 lead. Dallas made it 20-17, and then the Eagles killed them with the touchdown drive. And then Sirianni went for 2. Didn't get it, which was weird. And then the Cowboys kicker missed the field goal, which ruined Better's days everywhere. Um, I mean, let's be honest. The Cooper Rush thing, it was a funny story. It was kind of cool. But he actually faced a real team in a hostile environment against a really awesome defense. And he looks like about what we expect Cooper Rush to look like against that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for a couple days or a couple weeks now. I mean, the defense has really just been carrying this team. The offense hasn't done anything really. They've had to score like 20 points to win each game. I mean, in modern day NFL, you only have to score 3 touchdowns to win a game, 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. Like that's an easy job for any quarterback. And yeah, obviously commend Cooper Rush because I mean you're playing on the Cowboys' biggest stage in the league against some really decent talent. I mean, that is absolutely commendable considering the circumstances. But I think it's pretty reasonable as soon as they play a good team on prime time to be like, okay, yeah, like now you start to see the Cinderella story. He's turning back into the pumpkin, the carriage. Everything's turning back to normal. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, like Dallas offensively since week 2, 20th in EPA per play, 24th in success rate. They're 19th in EPA per drop back, and they are 15th in EPA per rush. They're literally a slightly below average offense. And they've produced like what a slightly below average offense would look like against the Eagles, right, in Philadelphia. I think the
Yeah,
story of the game to me was just how damn good the Eagles defense is. Like
Oh yeah,
Darius Slay has been the best corner in the league this season, to me.
Darius Slay, man. People need to
Their
start giving this guy props.
their
Like
pass rush, he's one of the best corners like of the last 6 years.
I know, and people don't talk about it because he played on the Lions, bro.
Um, their pass rush is unforgiving. Fletcher Cox is still Fletcher Cox. Looks like it at least. Obviously, he's not like 2018 Fletcher Cox, but he's still
Here, give me a
awesome.
sec. I'll be right back.
Javon Hargrave still very good. Jordan Davis, when he was on the field, looked quite good. Brandon Graham still can play. Like this team still has the guys defensively up front to be a dominant unit. I thought Zeke had a decent game at times, but he also looked pretty bad having that decent game. Tony Pollard, they honestly bottled up pretty well. I mean, 4 yards a carry. Did pretty well against the speed, elusive type edge runners that they've had some trouble with and at times. So I like to see that. They didn't run the ball, or their offense wasn't great. I mean, they had a really nice flurry in the second quarter. They had a nice drive to kill the game, but not a great performance from the Eagles offense. Hurts 6.2 yards in attempts, but 2 touchdowns and 27 yards rushing. Not bad at all. Miles Sanders was okay, 71 yards and a touchdown, but on 18 carries, under 4 yards a carry. I thought they should have ran Gainwell more. I thought Gainwell was having some success when they were using him. AJ Brown, though, he is an absolute dude like we thought he was. He gave Trayvon Diggs. I flagged it in BLB versus Contestants. He gave Trayvon Diggs some issues in this game. I just feel like the Eagles, they got back to their bread and butter on both sides of the ball, which is being dominant up front defensively and dominating the opposing passer, forcing him into mistakes, and then capitalizing on that offensively by dominating the line of scrimmage, which their offensive line is the best in football. And then they have a
Great one.
quarterback that isn't going to lose them games right now, is adding stuff with both his big arm and his legs, and then a fairly effective running back core, as well as an elite receiver that can give any corner issues. So, like, I'm not that down on Dallas. Like, Dak Prescott's gonna be the quarterback of this team by like their bye week. I think they'll play Detroit and Chicago next 2 weeks. They'll beat them, and then they'll go into the bye week. And then I think Lenny, that's where Dak Prescott will come in for Cooper Rush, and then they'll go from there. But
They
I
could
think,
play him in the Lions game, like just be like, "Hey, have him pick me up against a terrible defense," and then go into the bye week, have a week. I don't know, something like that.
but they play the Lions this week. Then it's the Bears. Then
Oh,
it's the bye.
oh, well, I don't know. Whenever he's healthy, you're probably right though. You're probably right.
But like, I still think Dallas's defense is elite. Um, and like the rest of the team is fine. McCarthy is still Mike McCarthy. He'll still make some just insane weird decisions, but
McCarthy.
this team's talented enough in a weak NFC to win it with Dak. So,
Yeah,
do you have any
yeah.
takeaways for Dallas
I think my
or
biggest
Philly?
takeaway from
I mean,
Dallas.
either of them.
Obviously, we're getting to the point where we're starting. Like I've been talking a lot about how I feel is going to happen with these teams in the playoffs. Like we're a third through the season. We got to start projecting how we feel how these teams are going to play in the playoffs, what that means for their Super Bowl hopes, whatever. The Cowboys' offense has been a problem, and I don't know if it's because of Cooper Rush or if it's going to have the same problems with Dak. Obviously, it looked like the moment was too big for him, and I'm sure that's not going to be like Dak won't ever play that bad. Hopefully, in a primetime game like that. I mean, this was a big, high tense moment that both of these teams haven't felt all year. The Cowboys had that Bucks game early in the year, but other than that, everything else has been a cakewalk for relatively. I mean, the Rams are still a decent team, but let's be honest, they didn't play like a decent team against the Cowboys. They kind of got whooped, and yeah, it's Dak Prescott who's going to have to elevate this offense past what it is, because without Amari Cooper and without like a dominant other receiver, it's just not that good. Like the scheme isn't great, so it's not going to elevate everything else. And Dalton Schultz has been injured too. Like they just don't have a lot of depth at receiver that's going to elevate anything. So Dak needs to take another step for this team to be a real Super Bowl contender because the coaching isn't going to do that. And I don't know if it's going to happen because again, this is Mike McCarthy. This is the Cowboys. I don't know. I can't trust this team to go into week 17 and 18 with Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy, and Brian Kelly and be that team at the end of the year. It's the state. Sorry, not Brian Kelly. Sorry, their offensive coordinator.
Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore. I'm sorry. You know who I'm talking about. I knew who I was talking about. I called him Brian Kelly. Anyway, I don't trust them to carry this momentum that they've carried by the end of week 18 and be able to sustain that through the playoffs when they have to play some physical, tough teams. I don't know. I just saw them lose to the Bucs, like embarrassingly, considering their offense played terrible. I don't know. I don't know about the Cowboys going to the playoffs. They're not that high. I'm not super high on them right now. I'm not as high with most people. I just can't.
I'm gonna counter with that and say, outside of the team they played, who can you be high on in the NFC?
Let me just say this: if the Cowboys had to play the Niners, the Bucs, or the Eagles in the playoffs at any point, would they win?
I don't think they'd beat. They could beat any of those teams.
No, dude, did you not see the Bucs game week 1? They dominated them.
No, I mean, that was with the Dak Prescott that went out in like the second quarter. The Bucs scored 19 points. The Bucs appear to have gotten worse offensively. The Bucs defense is not playing as well. I can't. The Bucs just lost to the Steelers, bro.
I'm gonna be honest. Specifically, me. I'm just not high on the Cowboys. I'm just gonna be honest.
The Niners are falling apart.
Call me a hater, okay? They're like the 4th best NFC team.
I think they're. I don't see it from either the Bucs or the Niners to where you can just sit here at 3-3 and say, "Yep, they're totally better." We're a third of the, like you said, we're a third of the way through the year, and they're 3-3.
In the playoffs, you either win or you lose. Okay, it's not that they're a better team. It's just I don't see them being able to go through the NFC and go to the Super Bowl like all these other teams will or could.
But why can you see it from those teams but not Dallas?
Because they have Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott as their 2 biggest guys. I don't see them carrying the momentum on their defense. Their defense is played above their head. Their defense is played above their head, and I don't see them carrying on the momentum, considering they're going to adjust to what Dan Quinn's been doing blitz-wise, because every team gets adjusted to. That's just what it is. I mean, eventually they're not going to play as good.
That goes for every team, though.
And I don't think the offense is going to get incredibly better, right? I don't think it's going to get any better. Like, obviously it's going to get better than what it is right now, but I don't think it's going to be enough to elevate above-average defense. It's not going to be – I'm just saying, I don't think the Cowboys are going to be that team by the end of the year. Just – okay, right now they're pretty good.
Okay, it's not as much they might not be. It's just I don't agree with the fact that you seem like you're writing them off almost.
I'm writing them off as a Super Bowl contender.
But I don't know why – I don't know if you can do that considering the substitutes you're giving haven't shown anything more at all.
This is based not necessarily on
like the Niners' playoff history isn't great. The Bucs have won Super Bowl.
They're 4-2 with Kyle Shanahan. What?
Yeah, that's fine. They've ended up losing. Like the Rams are the one team you can say and sit here and say you trust, and I guess the Bucs in big moments. That's it.
I think it comes down to me to coaching. I don't like the talent here. I've seen Mike McCarthy have talented teams and blow it when it mattered a million times.
I'm not a Mike McCarthy guy. I'm also
I just can't see it.
I'm not huge on Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich either.
I'm more betting on Mike McCarthy blowing this up somehow.
So you're more low on Mike McCarthy than you are high on these other teams.
It's comparative, but yes.
And what do you think about the Eagles?
I'll keep it short because I went for a long time with the Cowboys. I
like it. I like these discussions.
The Jalen Hurts continues to give me question marks. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Because this is the first game that he's played where he's been forced to like really pass because Micah Parsons is that guy under pressure. And he looked okay. He looked fine. But you're hoping that he plays better than that. Like he's gonna struggle in the playoffs. I'd think just because any playoff team playing another playoff team is probably gonna have trouble on defense, on offense, right? There's gonna be times where things don't go right, and looking at their schedule, I don't know if they're gonna get enough experience against tough teams to I don't know. This one's I don't know. I'm with the Cowboys. Like, yeah, they're not going to do anything because Mike McCarthy and other reasons. But the Eagles, I just obviously the talent's there. The roster is great. Everything's really good. Nick Sirianni's really good. Defensive coordinator's really good. I don't know. I just got to Jalen Hurts just keep proving to me and everybody that he is able to take that extra step that he's been doing. You just got to keep this momentum up. You just got to keep playing good.
Yeah, like I disagree on Dallas just because, I mean, I'm not Kyle Shanahan.
Do you really think Mike McCarthy is going to go into the
But
playoffs?
I've seen Tampa's coaches just be terrible this year, especially lately. And I've seen Kyle Shanahan have similar clock management issues. So I'm not exactly high on these other teams. Like even the Eagles. The Eagles, I think we would both agree, should be the favorite right now in the NFC, right?
Yes. No, I agree.
But Nick Sirianni hasn't shown anything in big moments either. They've gone to one playoff game and they got killed by Tampa. And Jalen Hurts, there's still a question with him as a passer. So I mean, the thing with the Eagles is they have a super easy schedule. They're going to be the number one seed. They're going to get the bye, unless something goes disastrously wrong with injuries or something. So that'll be a good thing for them because Philly is a legit home field advantage. But I don't know. I think the NFC is really open. I'm not even willing to write off the Rams yet. I still think the Rams, if they somehow get hot, they're still the champ, and they are the most trustworthy team in a big moment. Weirdly, the Packers look terrible right now. I don't know. The NFC's so bad. I can't fully. I feel like there's a lot of teams in the NFC that if they get hot can go on some kind of run. I don't know.
When everyone's not playing good, you kind of have to start thinking who's going to play good at the end. That's what I'm thinking about.
The Eagles have been the best team.
Yes,
but it kind of matters of who's the best team entering the playoffs as opposed to who's the best, most consistent.
Look at the Bengals, sixth seed, I think. I mean, or what were their? No, they won the division actually. Anyway, everyone wrote them off. No one thought they were going to do anything, but they were the best team when it mattered. The Rams, they weren't that good going into the playoffs or before the playoffs, but they played good when it mattered. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
And really, it is a matchup sport.
It is.
So, all right, Lane, do you have anything else to add, or should we end it there?
Hold up. Let me just look at the records real quick. Just let me look at some teams. Let me see if I have anything to say about anybody. The Lions, just real quick with the Lions. I don't know. I know they didn't play this week, but no one's really talking about them anymore.
I feel bad for the Lions fans. They had like 2 weeks of fame, and then it's just gone.
I don't think they're going to be. I mean, they got Jameson Williams back at some point. I mean, they could be pretty. I mean, even with this offense already playing pretty good, I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. I don't know why I decided.
What do you make of the Saints?
The Saints?
I feel like they're a huge disappointment that nobody's willing to call a disappointment for some reason. This team is bad.
Their coaching went from one guy had all his attention on defense to I have to split my attention from defense and offense respectively in the rest of the game. So Dennis Allen, obviously, because he's the defensive coordinator, would spend a lot of time building his game plan, scouting, all that. And I'm just assuming. I'm not a Saints fan. I don't look into this very hard, but this is what usually happens when a guy gets promoted from the coordinator to coach. But he's having to split his attention to a defense that was not being carried by him, but a defense that was definitely elevated by him, right? It was elevated because he was coaching them really well. So now that aspect shortens, and on offense, it's the exact same thing. Both both coaching on both sides of the ball, even though the roster got about the same, went went down, and the roster got about the same. So they're kind of like last year they got super injured, so they're kind of just where they were last year, but without the injuries. So that's what I take of the Saints. They're
You know
a
what's
9-8 win team.
you know what's super weird? The
What?
Raiders have the best rush defense in the NFL according to EPA, but the second worst pass defense.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know if they played like that. I don't. I'm like, I think it's more like this. When the okay, this is how I'm going to explain it. When the Raiders get down, or the Raiders have done this where they've played really good. They've either outmiled their opponent a bunch, as in they've gotten a big lead and then given it up. So then they've had to stop running the ball as much and they've started to having to pass a lot, or they've gotten outmiled by a lot. So then the other team is running the ball inefficiently because it was predictable.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then the Raiders just had to pass the ball to get back in the game. So like it's kind of like
Like the
I
Chiefs were
get the
down
stat,
so
but
much that they just started passing every play. And because they were so
exactly.
effective with doing that, it killed the passing stats, but it didn't hurt the rushing stats.
You
Um,
understand.
are you willing to write off the Bengals yet? Last thing. I'm not.
Uh, how much does writing off just if they're going to make the
Are you
playoffs?
just like no chance they do anything? Like maybe they make the
Uh,
playoffs, but outside of that, they're not. They're just a one and done team. I think they can still make if everything goes well. I still think they
I'm
can.
not writing them off, but I'm very much like I don't think they're going to do anything. I don't think they're going to, but I'm not writing them off. So it's like it's kind of like with the Niners. Like I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to write them off to not win it because there can be things that can happen for them to do it. But it's obviously stacked against them. I think that's just how I feel with the Bengals. They might not even make the playoffs. Uh, they
I don't
might
know. They're
not.
3-3.
It's their record. I mean, their schedule after this is not easy, and they just I don't know. They're gonna have to play
I don't know.
better. They're gonna have to play
They're
better.
definitely gonna have to play better.
They're gonna have
All
to play
right.
better.
All right, I think that's where we're going to end it. Thank you guys for watching this episode of the Laydown Podcast, recapping week 6 of the NFL season. Let us know what your thoughts on week 6 of the NFL season is. I'll be sure to look in and respond to those comments. And that is it for us. Thank you for watching. God bless.